Our movie begins with Jenny and Riley, who together traveled to Iceland and arrived after a long trip. And when Riley saw the mountains in front of him, he took out the camera to start photographing the mountains because he is a fan of photography. And then they went to the hotel and rested a little, and they started their tourist tour in Iceland. They saw the water that exploded from a source in the underground and then went to a natural spa and ate lunch in a restaurant near the hotel. But it was crowded. Jenny suggested to her boyfriend that she will buy a high-quality camera as a gift for him because his camera is old, but he replied that he likes that camera because he controls anything in the photo when he takes it, as his father taught him. When they finished their tour, they went back to the hotel to sleep, and Jenny woke up at 3:30 in the morning. She saw a strong light explosion and then felt that the light was moving and then disappeared from in front of her. She went back to sleep again until Riley woke her up at 10 o'clock to take breakfast at the hotel, so they went out of the room and found no one in the hotel, even in the reception. They did not find anyone, so they thought that the employee was late and sleeping and the guests were either still asleep or started their tour early. And they went out to the street and did not find anyone. And the streets were completely empty of people, and they thought that people had gone to an occasion in the city. But Jenny told him that if there was an occasion in the city that was so important, they would have known about the occasion too. They walked around the city and did not find anyone there, and they were afraid that this disappearance would include their families as well. They went to the restaurant, which was crowded, and found it completely empty, and turned on the TV to see if something had been deposited for what happened. They found all the channels stopped as well, and Riley started talking to himself and saying if people died, where are their bodies? And if aliens kidnapped them, where are those spaceships? They did not find any messages or news of this disappearance. The whole world suddenly disappeared and only they remained. They quickly returned to the hotel to see on the internet any news about the day, but they only found yesterday's news and there was no update. And they opened the direct broadcast, which is automatically open to the most famous places in the world, and found it empty as well. And then they went out to the street again. They found a car in front of them as if the driver had disappeared from it, so they took it to get away from the city. Yet they did not see anyone on the road, and they wished that this was a long nightmare to wake up from because they didn't realize how to behave. So they went back to the hotel at 11 at night. They found that the sun was still shining and did not disappear as usual. They slept until the next day, and when they woke up, they tried to think of how to get out of the island that they were locked inside. And this is how Riley decided to make it easy for Jenny, so he went down in the morning to make her coffee, and after some thought, they decided to enjoy their time together. And they went to the supermarket to take all the things they wanted, and Riley came in the second car to put all the necessities in it, and then they chose the best house they liked to live in, and then they went to choose the clothes they liked and enjoy their deaths. And Jenny was surprised to keep the electricity running. Riley replied that all power plants are still working because they are automatic, and they continued enjoying the place. They slept comfortably on the lawn in the street because there was no one to stop them from duck, and Riley started filming her everywhere they went. Riley was very amused and didn't think about the people who had disappeared, unlike Jenny, who was terrified and afraid that she would disappear too. Or Riley disappears and remains alone. She was very scared when Riley was wounded in the arm, and she urged him to pay more attention because if any artery in his body was hit, he would bleed to death. Doctors are not present, and she will not be able to see him die in front of her, and she quarrels with him in the evening. And he must stop the neglect in his life, because there was only him left for her and she left him while she was upset with him. Riley decided to reconcile with her and gave her roses and promised her that he would take care of himself. Jenny said that she wished to read her favorite book, but she left it at her home before she traveled and wants this book in particular because her father gave it to her long ago, and that all she wished was for her to go back to her house. Time passed with her family, and the food began to run out, and they were supposed to eat the canned food in order according to its expiration date. And the water cuts off because it has no source left to come from, and Riley tells her that they can grow vegetables and fruits or learn how to hunt animals for meat because the animals did not disappear like humans. The electricity also started to go out, so it was impossible to store anything. And they spent a while in Iceland, and they found that the water sources had dried up, and the water is disappearing from the ground. Even the pool water level is dropping every day, and the islands of the sea became strong, and the sea level decreased. And their lives began to be boring because there is no one in this life, and they are trapped in the middle of an island from which they do not know how to get out. Jenny spends her time with animals such as a horse, and her boredom begins to shake Jenny and Riley's relationship. Then they move to a new place on the lake to live in, and finally, they find there an old man holding a wood in his hands. And Riley went to him to check on him, and the old man told him that he was thirsty because he ran out of water a long time ago. And he called Jenny to help him, and they took him to his house, and the old man told them that his name is Nils, and he has been living alone for a while, and all the people around him suddenly disappeared, and he was looking for people, and now he is just waiting for death. Riley tried to get him excited that they could find other people, and the old man replied that it wasn't important that they found other people because their end was near. It turns out that Nils is a pessimistic person waiting only for death, while Jenna is happy because she found someone alive. She told him that she misses her family and her country and wishes to return to them, and asks that she does not understand what is happening with them. Nils replied that this is a punishment from our God because he is a religious person, and because our God has taken all human beings to heaven and left those who deserve punishment, and they must appreciate the value of life, after which it takes them as well, and that if its people disappear, they will enter heaven, and they must also be patient until our God decides their fate and takes them as well. And he said this because he felt his end was near, and indeed Nils died on the same day. He was buried next to the house in which his family was buried. Riley told Jenna that this is a test, and they must be patient and surrender to their God to bless them and take them with him and end their torment on earth. But Jenna did not give up and decided to look for people alive as they found the old man. They could find a woman, a child, or a man. Then their journey began to search for people alive, and Jenna entered all the houses to search and put a sign on the house she entered. She walks with the map in her hand, and Riley was walking behind her aimlessly and only helping her. He tried to show her that there was no point in what she was doing because this was a test, as Nils said, but she refused to hear Riley's words and tried to make it easy for her and took her to the first place they visited in Iceland. And he told her that they would pass the test of patience together, whether by the appearance of people again or by their disappearance as well, in order to reach their families, and the important thing is that they stay together without weakening one of them. Then they came home again, and Jenna thanked him for making life easy for her. At the time she collapses, the night comes and she finds that Riley sent her pictures before the disappearance that happened. Jenna decided to end her life on her own, so she collected all her photos and put them in a large envelope on which Riley wrote, and she disappeared from the house. Riley woke up from sleep while calling for Jenna, but she did not respond to him, so he found the envelope with her pictures, so he knew that she had left the pictures to remind him. He looked at her car but did not find it, so he began to search for her wherever he went to the church, and he did not find her. Then he found that her car is parked in front of the lake. He found Jenna dead on the water, and Riley jumped into the water to save her, but Jenna committed suicide and ended her life by herself because she couldn't live a boring life like this without a goal, and Riley was next to her crying, and he too decided to commit suicide and jumped into the lake. But he couldn't hide under the water, so he got out of it. Jenna was buried near the lake, and he took a car and drove so that he might pass the exam and disappear like the rest of the people. Or people appear again and he drives and wishes life could return to normal or die like his girlfriend Jenna and Nils. This is how our movie ends. Tell us in the comments how you felt about this movie recap. See you in the following movie recap.